yourself into a human I can depend on to bring me happy. Thank you, happy.
Well, we're back, and we're glad you're along for this treasure trove of a trek through the stars. I'm Bryan Kreutz, ambassador to you, the fans, and with me is the lovely Lili Fox-Lim. Hey, Lili Lils.
Hey, BK. As an ambassador to the Star Trek fans, you have the duty, or actually, we have the duty to trek out the half-century and counting of Star Trek news, interviews, and cruise along in this fictional starship for factual fandom.
We have a special interview with a true Hollywood television gem.
Oh, yeah! What a way to start our fourth season out. Robert della Santina, fondly nicknamed as Bobby D, was a golden era child actor who worked tirelessly to become the unit production manager for Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Bobby D's 3 roles were crucial to television production success throughout the entire 7-season Deep Space Nine series run.
Right as always, Lili. By the way, when has Lili ever not been right? Okay, right, fans?
That's true.
Bobby D occasionally served as a line producer for Star Trek Deep Space Nine's first 2 seasons, but became the full-time line producer at the start of season 3. He was then elevated to consulting and coordinating producer at the start of the 4th season. But as a unit production manager, Robert della Santina worked closely with the producers, the 2nd unit at times, and even worked with stunt people like Dennis Madalone, Tom Morga, Mark Riccardi, Leslie Hoffman as well, along with a dozen of individual episode directors.
Oh, no doubt about it. A complete weapon-throwing success.
I love it.
Star Trek Deep Space Nine was decorated with endless talents in stunt people and Emmy Award-winning visual effects from so many that we've actually had the pleasure of interviewing here on my favorite show to trek along with you, BK, A Captain's Log.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do it. You are firing phasers on all cylinders to me, Lili. Absolutely. Not throwing weapons down along with the 3-pointers yet again for the win. A show like ours here on A Captain's Log has been blessed to interview people like Dan Curry, Leslie Hoffman, Dennis Madalone, Tom Morga, Mary Chieffo, and Rachel Antrill as some of our favorites, right? I know our Trekkies couldn't possibly be more excited to join Lili and I each week as we beam in cutting-edge interviews of the talented people that were glued together at the seams of the dreams on the stages at Paramount Plus and Paramount Pictures as well by Mr. Bobby D, the unit production manager.
Oh, well, many of these great stunt crew were actually our guests last season, and coming up this season we'll have Doug Drexler and Andre Bormanis, who worked closely with the legend known as line producer Bobby D. Shooting the 3 for the 3 roles he had on Deep Space Nine.
Lili's skating on thick ice around the many moons of Saturn for this deep Trek lore knowledge that will never fall out from underneath Star Trek's foundation. Lots in store, so come back next week for more Trekkies. This is a part 2 interview.
Oh, I love that pose around those many moons at the hashtag selfie gallery. We had such a good time together that taping day, BK.
We really did.
And speaking of ice moons or planets, Raj, our animated android, is on his way to being as cold as ice now. So, BK, you're challenging our backward little friend, the Tin Man, to stay frozen and offline for a year until we hear from his father, Roger Corby, in the new season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Ah, yes! And I'm also a big fan of that animated Tin Man, commonly known as Roger Corby, his son, Raj. This is as cold as ice in suicide for our strange cybernetic friend who may or may not survive, Lili.
Be brave, Tin Man.
That's right. Anyway, speaking of tractor beams, let's start a new segment here on our show. Tell us what's new and in store, Lils.
Tractor beam me! Our new segment here on A Captain's Log is former Star Trek times gone by that previously had themes full of flavor way back then and are seen now in today's current Star Trek streaming TV shows. BK and I will bridge the gap in events between Star Trek Legacy series or Science and the new current Star Trek series to make a great link of events or tidbits of scenes down memory alpha lane. So, tractor beam me, BK.
Will do, Lils. Enterprise was the only series to not contain a tractor beam. However, as a prequel series and as an alternative of antiquities, the NX-01 starship had a grappler. That's right, which was a metal cable with an effector on the end of it that could be launched by Scott Bakula's Archer's starship to grapple objects in space, preceding the tractor beam. Lili, tractor beam this grappler to the future of Star Trek, if you please.
Ooh, this is an easy tractor beam, maybe, okay? Do I get double bonus points for answering this correctly?
Well, I don't know.
You know, it's a new segment. I'll let you and the other producers think about that and challenging me more in Trek lore next time we do the segment.
Oh, Lili, I love the confidence. Yes, I will talk to the producers and the writing team tomorrow.
Great.
Show me what you got on this.
So, the new series to have a grappler is Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds, thanks to a crossover of character Boimler and the strong woman security officer La'an Noonien Singh. Yeah. The Federation shuttlecraft Sequoia in the late 24th century had attached to the USS Cerritos. Both La'an Noonien Singh and Brad Boimler were enthused about grapplers. Due to this, the lower deckers of Cerritos added a grappler onto shuttlecraft Sequoia in the episode titled A Few Badgies More.
Oh, I love it. There you have it. The ultimate Trekkie trailblazer, Lili Fox-Lim, masters the new segment. I love both episodes, A Few Badgies More and those old scientists.
So good.
Such good stuff. Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds crossover was amazing. Let's get to the news and views this season here on A Captain's Log.
Trekkies, we have a slew of Star Trek summary news to report from the off-season. BK, want to kick us off?
Absolutely. The final season premiere of Star Trek Discovery is less than a month away, and as an official Star Trek news source, Lili and I are privy to preview the promo of Season 5 ahead of time. Let's have a look.
Burnham became a captain by fortifying herself as a leader and carrying the weight of the world, or the galaxy for that matter, on her shoulders. Burnham's leadership here in Season 5 through this trailer shows that she's learned hard lessons since the beginning in the Vulcan Hello and the Battle at the Binary Stars under her late captain Philippa Georgiou. Star Trek Discovery, per the official logline Season 5, will find Captain Burnham and the crew of the USS Discovery uncovering a mystery that will send them on an epic adventure across the galaxy to find an ancient power whose very existence has been deliberately hidden for centuries. Ooh. Star Trek Discovery Season 5 is set to premiere on April 4th, 2024, with its first 2 episodes on where else but Paramount Plus.
We've been waiting a long time to beam down Star Trek Discovery Season 5. I know Burnham and the crew are going to impress in the new season. There's more Star Trek news of new series, too. How many Star Trek episodic series have there been, Lili?
Too many to count.
Way too many to count. It's almost to the point where we're losing track, I really believe. But a wealth of success and desire from fans worldwide demand more Star Trek like us.
That we do.
The full episodes that are in a 10-season count will actually be on screen for you as well, with the titles and the writers who are associated with those as well in Discovery's final send-off season. And they have been revealed by Paramount Plus officially.
You know, we love Paramount Plus and Showtime because there's always Showtime for the Treks. I don't know. Paramount Plus greenlit the Star Trek Starfleet Academy for 2024 production. The new Starfleet Academy series is set to join the current lineup of TV Star Trek, with production which has already begun now in 2024. And new updates include that Tawny Newsome will join the writer's room, as that has been her favorite part, and she's put herself on board. All of us, including all of you, come back for more on the other side of this break.
A Captain's Log returns in a moment.
Welcome back to A Captain's Log. Lili Fox-Lim here. You know, preparing an initial shooting schedule based on the technical and creative elements needed is no small task for making television. Our upcoming guest, Bobby D, effectively communicated with producers, the director, studio executives, crew heads, and coordinated the order that scenes were shot in. We're prepared to get down to the nitty-gritty of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Equipped with the director's plan, blueprints of the soundstage sets, and filming locations denoted on the time, place, and details, Bobby D was busy daily. Bryan, let's prepare to boldly go into the head of one of Hollywood's legendary unit production managers, Robert della Santina, starting now.
Yes! And it became apparent several episodes into this Deep Space Nine series that a different, more multifaceted world and a deeper side of Roddenberry's Star Trek universe was about to rear its spacefaring alien head like never seen before.
Ooh.
Let's learn how this integral Bobby D, gentlemen, was in this 1990s Star Trek show that is unforgettable, really, all these years later.
Let's welcome Robert della Santina, aka Bobby D, to our show. Welcome to A Captain's Log.
Well, thank you. I'm overwhelmed, humbled.
Bobby D, how did you get your start at such a young age into the performing arts growing up in New York City?
I ended up having my own radio show in Italian, and I was approximately eight years old. And we had a sponsor from the La Rosa Macaroni Company. So it was definitely based in the Italian community. And it was very successful because there was quite a community, which I guess there still is, Greenwich Village and such. Anyway, as I grew up, then from there in the Italian theater, my mother said, well, we don't want to limit him to the Italian community. Let's see if we can maybe he can start working in radio and television here in English, American. So that did work out. I was able to get an agent and did work television shows as a kid actor. At the time when in New York in the late 40s, early 50s, a lot of the talent that has become famous here in Hollywood were there. Rod Steiger, Anne Bancroft, who was at the time known as Anne Bancroft, Jack Lemmon. I did have a fairly nice little career going in radio. I was junior on Ma Perkins, which was a classic long-running radio show with Virginia Payne. I did radio with Robert Taylor, with, oh my gosh, probably some of these names don't mean anything to a lot of the people that are listening because this was way before a lot of people were born. Anyway, we decided, my folks decided that we had used up New York, that there wasn't much more to go there. So we came to California. We had been in California earlier in the mid-40s and then traveled back to New York because in the mid-40s, my mom and dad were doing voiceovers, basically, what you'd call as voiceovers now. Only at the time it was called dubbing, where they would take an American film, an American language film, and dub the voices and the dialogue in Italian. They developed a 400-day training program during which the Directors Guild would place you in different positions with different studios. So you get to learn the ins and the outs of what you do on a set, what happens in construction, in production, and post-production, to kind of groom you so that you at least weren't thrown into the water not knowing how to swim. So I got into the training program, and at the time, we were being placed, because there was quite a few of us, we were being placed in with various production companies. We weren't paid very much because that was an incentive for the DGA to tell the producers, look, it's not going to cost you a lot of money, but why don't you take these guys and train them? And so because it wasn't costing the production company much money, they said, okay, I think I was making $70 or $80 or $90 a week. And that was, and then every 100 days, you'd get a $10 or $15 raise. I was making just barely enough. My wife was working, and we had some savings before. But obviously, during those years that I was here and going to college, I met my wife, and we were married, and we then started the family. Not a family, not yet, because we couldn't afford to have a family at that time. So it was just the two of us in a small apartment in Westwood. I then completed my 400 days of training, and during that 400 days, I had been placed in with Aaron Spelling Productions.
Dynasty, Charlie's Angels, Love Boat, Heart to Heart. Aaron Spelling essentially had an open contract with ABC TV Network and later Fox TV Networks to create these memorable TV series. Please tell us about your start in Hollywood TV productions and how you eventually got to work alongside Aaron Spelling.
When I graduated into the program, which cost me $750 because that's the dues that we had to pay to join the union, but we went from being trainees to being gophers, well, you know, not as far as cleaning the stage, but fairly close. Getting up at 4:30 in the morning and having to be in makeup to greet the actors and the actors, to get their breakfast, to show them where their dressing rooms were, to make sure that they had all their latest pages of their scripts, so that they were ready at 7:30, 8 o'clock when the director, when the real assistant director, the first assistant director would say, okay, bring in the cast. And one of my assistant directors used to use a funny say, he says, bring in the New York cast. And that made the actors feel so important because there's nothing like an actor who has had experience in New York. So he would say, bring in the New York cast, Bobby. I then became kind of part of the Spelling production company. And as I said, I must have done something right because then for the next, from 1970 or 71 until the late 80s, I was working for Aaron Spelling, doing Love Boat, doing Heart to Heart, doing Family, doing The Love Boat. They also, during that period that I was with them, promoted me from second assistant to first assistant. And obviously, the difference between the second and the first is the second says, what do I do? The first says, go do this. So that's basically what it's about. So they made me from second, they then made me first assistant. And then that's where I spent most of my time with Aaron. That's how I got the training to ultimately move on to do all the other projects that I did during my career.
Yes, I remember Aaron Spelling from his later productions, Melrose Place, 90210. You worked with him a whole lot and in integral ways that you've described here. This is truly a testament to your abilities working on big network TV shows.
Bobby D, please talk about your interplay of other shows and how that led to Deep Space Nine and your relationship with Les Landau.
Now, when I was with Spelling, yeah, obviously he was a golden boy at that time. He had, I think, an open-end contract with ABC that whatever he produced, they would actually buy and put on the air because, I mean, he had Love Boat, he had I forget Charlie's Angels, Love Boat, Family, Dynasty, and it was when during my time on Dynasty as production manager, assistant director into production manager, is interestingly where the seed was planted that ultimately grew into the beanstalk that led me to Deep Space Nine. And that occurred through a person that I owe my career at Deep Space Nine to, and that was Les Landau. Because at the time, Les, I had hired Les to be one of the first assistants because I was production managing. And I normally had two assistant directors because one is preparing and one is shooting. And Les came to me one day. By the way, when I interviewed him, there was no question that he was more than an assistant director. And obviously, if you look at the credits on Deep Space Nine and The Next Generation and the other Star Trek shows, he's got many, 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 many credits as a director. And that all happened because he came to me while we were doing Dynasty and he said, Bobby, I have an opportunity. They called me from a company that's going to be doing Star Trek, and I had worked. This was Les had worked with someone in the production office or one of the producers. I don't recall who that was. And he said, having worked with me, they asked if I might want to come and join them. And I said to myself, my gosh, of course, because they knew before I knew how good he was. And so they wanted him back. And he looked at me kind of sheepishly and he says, I've been offered a position to go there, be first assistant, and then possibly have the opportunity to direct a couple of episodes. At which point, it was like the anvil fell on my head. I said, "Well, Bob, what are you going to do? Not let him go? Here's a life-changing opportunity." So I looked at him and I said, "Les, I hate to let you go. I hate to see you go, but you deserve it. You got to go. Of course, I'll let you go." And he finished whatever episode he was doing, and then off he went to do Star Trek, and then the great success from that. So that planted the seed because of the link between Dynasty, Les, and Deep Space Nine.
Bobby D, did you have any expectation to be hired by Star Trek producer David Livingston before the start of season 1 of Deep Space Nine? Or is this the legacy of an iconic series that would be a part of a steady long-term unit production manager work for you? Please tell us about the story of your David Livingston interview in 1992.
Regale us with it.
I went to Paramount to meet David Livingston, and got into his office, and we sat and we talked about Les, and we talked about what we had done and whatever. And I guess I said the right things, or else Les Landau had something on Livingston. But David hired me as the production manager, and theoretically, like they say, the rest is history. However, the rest is history only, I think, because at the end of every season, I would go to David to make sure that what I had done that year, that they were happy, that the budgets were okay, that the way I acted and reacted with the actors and the crews was something that they wanted to continue. Because I never, even when I was with Aaron Spelling Productions and I had a very secure position there, I never took for granted that what I was doing was good enough for them. And if they wanted to fire me, I would say, absolutely, that's your right. If I haven't done what you want, I must have done something right. As I've said, I'm not patting myself on the back. I just did the job that I was taught to do by my mother and father when I was a child. 7 years is a long time. But I did the math the other night just for fun. On the 7 years, we did 173 episodes. And normally it's 7 days to shoot an episode. And I did the math and I said, okay, 7 days times, 7 times, what is it, 172. And I came up with, I think it's 1,250 shooting days. So that's a lot of days. And during that time, every one of those days cost X amount of dollars, because an episode normally at the time was an average of $2 million. So it ended up that we ran through $350 million during those 7 years. And I think back, I said, wow, if somebody handed me $350 million and said, take care of it, I'd be shaking. At any rate, those are the numbers. Were very interesting when you break things down into numbers. 7 years, 173 episodes, okay, that's fine. But 1,200 days, $350 million. that's impressive.
Wow, you had so much experience as unit production manager and momentum going into Deep Space Nine.
I've heard some interesting stories about meal penalties and the accommodations that you had to make as the liaison with the producers and director of working overtime on set production times when a typical Deep Space Nine episode. Can you please give us an example of or a story about these penalties, or can you tell us about an unusual circumstance with a specific director in particular where you as the production manager are in a challenging spot to get the scenes filmed and wrapped for the day?
What happens then with the salaries, after certain hours, there are premiums, there are penalties. There are penalties if you don't feed every 6 hours, you pay a penalty for that. If you go over in hours, well, their salaries are based on hourly rates. Some people are on a salary, but still there is a penalty built in. But the hourly people can end up making almost double their daily salary if you go over a certain amount of hours, and that can add up very quickly, and that can really burn the production manager. So you're always during the day, if you have the right assistant director, which Les was correct, by midday he would call and say, Bob, we haven't gotten all these shots. The director told me we have X amount of shots left. We're not going to make it. We're either going to go into penalty and then it's up to me to say, okay, fine. You've given me the information. I will put this on to the producers, and then the producers will either come down and jump on the director because I can't, or else they'll say, fine, pay the piper, and then we'll go talk to the writers and see what we can do on the next show.
Bobby D, the actors are the variables, it seems, with time on set. Well, that's quite the cost-saving strategy, absolutely. Trekkies, there's more Trek lore in store next week with part 2 of our interview with Robert della Santina.
But you have to join BK and yours truly here on A Captain's Log to get those Trek-loving questions, which are always tried and true, and in your purview to gain the ultimate Star Trek knowledge.
Indeed. This is thanks to our unbelievable guests here on A Captain's Log. Yes.
Bye for now.
Hello, happy, my old friend. I'm glad you've manifested yourself into a human I can depend on to bring me happy.